Sure, real bananas taste fine, but have you noticed anything banana flavored is delicious? And we all know the two don't taste the same. But what if I told you banana flavoring tastes identical to a once mainstream type of banana? The only thing is, you'll probably never get to taste it because it's almost entirely extinct. Meet Gros Michel, also known as Big Mike. This was the banana pre-1960s. If you were to go to a supermarket, this would have been the only banana on sale. It's the same banana your great-grandparents would likely have ate. Now, the Gros Michel, it was completely different. First of all, its skin was a much brighter yellow, and it was much thicker, making it bruise much less and ideal for shipping. When you peeled a Gros Michel, there were no strings inside. The skin came away cleanly, revealing a perfectly smooth, pristine flesh. Taste-wise, it was creamier, richer, and significantly sweeter than what we eat today. Think of it as almost candy-like, with a powerful, unmistakable aroma, and it was loved by pretty much everyone. So naturally, when food scientists first started creating artificial flavorings in the early 1900s, the banana was one of the flavorings to take off, and many sweet treats adopted the flavor of Big Mike. Loved by many, the artificial banana flavoring created a pretty accurate representation of the flavor profile. Big Mike had a fatal flaw, one that would eventually doom the entire variety.
Is this?
You see, bananas
They're-
in the wild are full of big, hard black seeds. But for hundreds of years, humans have selectively bred bananas to be seedless, sweet, and much easier to eat. In fact, we came up with a perfect variety, Big Mike. Now, this was perfectly developed to be seedless. So, to grow more of the fruit-bearing trees without seeds, we took cuttings to propagate additional plants. Then from that plant, we would take more cuttings, and so on. This, however, exposed one huge flaw. Every single banana tree was pretty much a genetic clone, reproducing its perfect bananas, but also reproducing its vulnerabilities. In the 1950s, a soil fungus called Fusarium wilt, specifically a strain called Tropical Race 1, began spreading through banana plantations across Central America and the Caribbean. The fungus attacks the banana plant's vascular system, essentially choking it to death by blocking the flow of water and nutrients. Because every Gros Michel was genetically identical, not a single one of them had any natural resistance to this disease. When fungus hit the farms, it would spread like wildfire. Infected plants would wilt and die, and the fungus would remain in the soil for decades, making it impossible to replant Gros Michel trees in new affected areas. The speed of the collapse was staggering. In just over 10 years, Big Mike went from the world's favourite banana to being all but wiped out from commercial farms in the early 1960s. Banana companies faced an existential crisis: find a replacement variety or go out of business entirely. Enter the Cavendish banana. Now, this is the banana we know today. However, in the 1960s, it was a completely different story. The Cavendish had been around since the 1800s, but had never been commercially viable on a large scale because it was seen as a much inferior fruit to the Gros Michel. It was smaller, it had a thinner peel that made shipping more difficult, and the flavour was much milder and slightly sour. But the Cavendish had one crucial advantage. It was completely resistant to Tropical Race 1 of the Fusarium wilt. The banana industry pivoted almost overnight. Where Gros Michel trees had wilted, Cavendish trees were planted, without having to alter the soil or adapt existing farms. Within a few years, the Cavendish had completely replaced the Gros Michel in international markets. This wasn't wildly advertised, by the way. For consumers, it wasn't a sudden dramatic reveal, it was more like a slow, confusing fade out. Maybe the bananas looked a little different or didn't taste quite as good as you remembered. Gradually, that familiar rich candy-like flavour of Big Mike became less common, replaced by the milder, often starchier Cavendish, and people just adapted. You see, the Cavendish wasn't chosen for its superior flavour. It was chosen because it was the only viable option left to save a multi-billion-dollar industry.
So has the cereal that brings them back. Great tasting Teen Flakes.
Meanwhile, the artificial food industry faced a choice. They could either reformulate their products to match the new banana or stick with the formula they had worked on for decades. And they chose to stick with the original formula, and for a good reason. The artificial banana flavour was already established in the market. It was consistent, reliable, and cost-effective to produce. And more importantly, the Gros Michel flavour profile was actually more distinctive than the mild Cavendish. But here we move on to the unsettling part. We're potentially facing the exact same scenario again. The Cavendish banana that dominates today's markets is as genetically uniform as the Gros Michel was. Every Cavendish plant is a clone of every other Cavendish plant, and a new strain of Fusarium wilt, this time tropical race number 4, has emerged and it can kill Cavendish trees. Scientists and banana companies are racing to find solutions. Some are developing genetically modified Cavendish bananas that may resist the fungus, while others are focusing on different types of bananas. Others are searching for entirely new banana varieties that could serve as the next replacement, just like the Cavendish replaced the Gros Michel. So the story of why Laffy Taffy doesn't taste like bananas isn't just an interesting story about forgotten flavours. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of our entire food chain and how the mistake of relying on one single genetic strain keeps getting repeated.
When you haven't much time to eat, unzip a banana.